Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, you beautiful foodies. If you stumbled onto this video looking for a good dinner recipe, look no further. Today we're making Papa Austin's Tuscan Chicken. Now I like to use boneless, skinless chicken breast for this recipe. My wife doesn't really care for the skin and she really doesn't like the fat, so I try to get chicken with as little fat as possible. Now, these are pretty large breasts, so I think I'm going to go ahead and cut them in half. Usually we like to have leftovers for lunch the next day, so this works out perfectly. And for this recipe I used 3 breasts, which equals 6 pieces of chicken. Now get a plate to set aside the cutlets so we can clean our cutting board later. We want to prep everything first just to make life a little bit more easy. Especially if you're like me, you have kids, they need attention, make sure they don't hurt themselves. Now, try to slice these as evenly as possible. That way they all cook evenly and we aren't having to stagger them too badly. If there's little bits of fat left, that's okay, but you want to try and remove as many of the big pieces of fat as you can. Now, once you've cleaned your cutting board thoroughly, as well as your knife, now you can prep your other ingredients. For this recipe, there really isn't that many. It's super simple, yet it's delicious. So we're going to go ahead and give our onion a little bit of a haircut here, split it down the middle, and peel off that film right there at the first layer. We don't want none of that. Now, I like bigger pieces of onion in this dish. It's really just personal preference. If you want them smaller, you are more than welcome to do that. You can tweak this however you like. Now, you'll notice I have 2 onions. But I decided that 1 medium onion was plenty for the recipe. So just dice those up, set them aside. Quick disclaimer though, when you're doing anything in the kitchen, always be careful, especially if you're handling cutlery. There was several times right here that you can see where I nearly cut my finger. So always be paying attention, always be careful, always, always, always use a sharp knife. Now, the seasoning for the chicken is super simple. First, salt it. I know it seems like a lot, but believe me, it's not. Just a pinch or 2 for each breast, each side will do fine. We're going to follow that up with a little bit of pepper. I like a little bit more pepper on my chicken. You can tweak that. You don't really need a whole lot. It's just preference. Now once you've got the salt and pepper on, it's time for the oregano. Now you can be as stingy or liberal with this as you like. Me, I like the taste of oregano, so I put a good bit on there. Now don't forget to do this to both sides. Now in a large pan, we're going to add about 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And then we're going to crank that heat up to about medium high. And bring that oil up to temperature. You'll know that it's ready for the chicken when you start to see ripples in the oil. Now, you're going to lay your chicken in the pan and always lay it away from you. Try not to overcrowd the pan, but for my pan, 3 breast was perfect. Oh, look at that crust. For this recipe, I cook the chicken about 3 to 4 minutes per side. You really want a good sear so you can lock in all that delicious flavor. Now we're going to move on to the pasta. You're going to bring a pot of water up to a boil, add a little bit of olive oil and some salt. This doesn't stop your pasta from sticking together or anything like that, it just seasons the water. And for this recipe, I actually used fettuccine noodles. However, my wife is a really big fan of angel hair, so you can really interchange this however you want. Now, to the pan you fried your chicken in, add some butter. While it's melting, take this opportunity, go ahead and scrape up those bits on the bottom. It's called fond, and that's where all that good flavor is. Now, once your butter is almost completely melted, you can go ahead and add your onions and saute them until they're translucent. Now, I like my onions a little bit more crunchy because I like to add that little texture in there. You can saute them down until they're soft and squishy, or you can saute them for a few seconds and keep them nice and hard. It's up to you. Man, look at that lovely golden color they take on so quickly. All right, we're going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to the onions, and we're going to let it cook for about 2 to 3 minutes. Now, once we've reached this stage, this is where we deviate a little bit. This is where we're going to add some mushrooms. Now, I use pre-slice. That's just me. It's easier. And when I've got a kid running around, having a knife out as little as possible is a good thing. Now, as soon as I added this, I'm sure some of y'all were like, "But Papa Austin, that's not real Tuscan chicken." Look, I know, I get it, but it's my Tuscan chicken. Now we're going to saute those down until we get them to a nice color. Cook them about halfway through. We're just going to keep on stirring it through and let them cook down. Once we get to the desired color, we're going to add some salt. We're going to stir that in, make sure it's well incorporated. We don't want any lumps or anything like that in the salt. Once we get it to where we want it, we're going to go ahead and add about 2 teaspoons of minced garlic. And we're going to saute that until it's fragrant. So now that it's fragrant, we can go ahead and add our cream. Now, I added about 1.5 cups for this recipe. You can add more or less, it's up to you. A really good way to do this too is once you've added your cream, add a little bit of chicken stock. Do a 1-to-1 ratio. It's kind of nice. Now we're going to incorporate this, make sure it come up to temperature. And while we're doing that, we're going to take this chance and grab some... Can you guess? Hey, you don't have to guess, I'll tell you. Sun-dried tomatoes. We're going to go ahead and add as much of that as you want. My wife really likes her sun-dried tomatoes, especially in this recipe, so we're going to add, a hefty little bit in there. Now, me personally, After I've added the tomatoes, I like to add a little bit of the oil that's in there. I feel like that gives that flavor a little bit of oomph. Nice little acidity in there. We're going to really stir it, make sure everything's well incorporated, make sure all that oil is spread. Make sure everybody gets the chance to meet each other at the local swimming pool here. And then we're going to bring it up to a simmer. Now, once it started simmering, we're going to go ahead and add the zest of one lemon. Now, for me, I added this once it reduced about a quarter of the way down. And I zested the entire lemon. Now, I didn't add any of the juice. You really don't need it. But set that lemon aside because we can use it for garnish, or you can, have some lemon slices to squeeze on your pasta. Delicious either way. Now, we're going to stir that in. Make sure it's well incorporated. And then we're going to reduce it down by half again. However, we ain't done yet. Once it's gotten down to about halfway, this is where we're going to add about 16 ounces of Parmesan cheese. Now, you can use the stuff in the little cans that you put on pizza and spaghetti, but if you really want a good flavor and good melting, spend the extra $1 or $2 and pay for the real thing. Believe me, it makes all the difference in the world, and it tastes so much better. Plus, it melts really, really well compared to that grated stuff you get on the shelf. Make sure it's well incorporated. Now, this was a little too thick, so I'm going to add just a little bit of pasta water. Really great for loosening up sauces. This got down to the right consistency really, really quickly, so I was really happy with it. But if you like it thicker, don't worry about the pasta water. If you like it a little bit more soupy, add as much as you need until the desired consistency. Bear in mind, this is still going to cook. We're not done yet. We're going to go ahead and add the chicken. We're going to cover it, and we're going to let it cook for about 5 more minutes. And then, boom. That looks so good. Y'all enjoy now. Let me know in the comments what you thought about it.